could also use an olive oil. Topic that we got a request for. I think it's always surprising. Thanks for the great questions, you guys. Thank you, Sandy. Looks good, doesn't it? I want to hear from you guys. This is the show for you. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's so good. So many wonderful people on tonight. Thank you guys for being here. Give me a hello, a shout out if you're tuning in for the first time or if you're a regular, although I do know the regulars. So, hey, Judy, thanks for tuning in. Good to see you. Is anybody cooking with me tonight? Let me know. If you are, the first thing that we're going to get started is our farro. If you're not familiar with farro, it's basically a whole grain. If you can't find it or you don't have it at home, you can always use a brown rice, a quinoa, barley, bulgur, whatever it is that you have on hand. So like I said, this will be the first thing that we're going to get going. So let's head on over to the stove here and we're going to turn on our soup pot or whatever pot you're going to be using to cook this. And we're going to do 1 cup of our farro and put our chicken stock in with it. So I typically cook for 2 people on the show, but I'm cooking for 4 tonight. So I'm actually going to use 2 cups of farro. If you're just cooking for 2, go ahead and stick to that 1 cup of farro. And if you're using the 1 cup of farro, you're going to want about 3 cups of liquid. And so I'm going to be using a little bit more than that. Don't worry about pouring too much liquid in with the farro because you can always drain the excess liquid off at the end once it's fully cooked. So that's one of the reasons why I love farro, because you don't have to do like there's no very specific or structured grain to water or liquid ratio like you have to follow with rice. You know, you can't exactly cook rice and drain off the excess liquid. It just doesn't work like that. But for farro, it does. I'm going to add just a touch more water in here because I am cooking a little bit more farro. And what I love about cooking grains in stock is that it adds a little bit more flavor. And I think that we don't really cook many whole grains at home because we just don't know what to do with them. We don't know how to cook them. They don't really taste very good. They're kind of bland. So cooking them in chicken stock or veggie stock is a really great way to add additional flavor to it. So use that tip in the kitchen next time you're trying to cook a whole grain. So we're going to let this simmer. And then the next thing we're going to do is come back over to our cutting board and deal with the veggies. So we're going to saute our asparagus and our kale with a little bit of garlic. First, we're going to cook those down and then we'll mix these veggies right in with the farro. Judy is saying hello. Are you cooking with me, Judy? How's it going? Diane! Hey, Diane. Diane says, doggone it. Have to hurry home to catch part of this. Okay, well, we'll see you back here soon. I'm glad you popped on to say hello. You know you can always watch the replay. I don't even have a knife on me right now. Okay, so go ahead and get out your asparagus. We're going to cut the ends off of the asparagus. So we have this little woody bit at the bottom here of the asparagus, and that's the part that we want to cut off because it gets really stringy and chewy and fibrous, and it's just not a very good eating experience. So let's just cut that part off. And you really only need about an inch and a half. So we'll just cut those guys off and throw them aside. So go ahead and do that with all of your asparagus. Fun fact about asparagus. Did you know that only certain people can smell asparagus after they urinate, after they've eaten it? Everyone's heard the term asparagus pee. It's real. It's out there. But only some people can smell it. There's some kind of olfactory gene that people have that prevents them from actually smelling it. I just always find that fun. Judy says, going well. Just watching tonight. Well, good. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to just chop the asparagus up a little bit more because we don't want to have these huge spears in with the farro. Cooking your spears in the oven or just sauteing them like this with a little bit of salt and pepper is also really, really delicious. It's a really healthy, delicious way to enjoy asparagus by itself. But since we're mixing it in with the farro, we're going to chop it up a little bit more. It's also going to cook a little bit faster when we do it this way too. So we'll go ahead and cut all of this good stuff. And you might want to grab an extra bowl to put this asparagus in because we want to Actually, scratch that. We're just gonna start throwing it in our pan right now. We'll get this cooking first, then we'll add our garlic, then we'll add the kale. And while this is cooking, the farro is cooking, and it'll all kind of come together at the same time. So let's go back over to the stove and go ahead and heat whatever saute pan you're using. Go ahead and put it at about medium heat. Drizzle a little olive oil in there. Some nice healthy fat to help us absorb all of those fat soluble vitamins that are in the folate, or that are in the asparagus. And we can go ahead and throw that asparagus right in the pan. Does everybody like asparagus? We have any asparagus haters on the show? We can talk about some substitutions, because you don't have to use asparagus if you don't like it. There was no use in saving that little asparagus piece that rolled on the floor because Kiki got it. Okay, next up is garlic. So we're going to do about, I don't know, 4 to 5 cloves. However much you love garlic is how much you're going to use. If you don't really like garlic that much, maybe just use 1 clove. If you love garlic, use as much as you want. I'm just going to use the rest of this head here. And how I like to chop my garlic is to lay the flat side of my knife down over the top of the garlic clove, give it a gentle smush, and just pop that garlic skin right off. You can go through and do that with your other ones. Judy is saying, love, love asparagus. So, Judy, I think my dad is going to be growing asparagus again in his garden. And for those of you who are watching, Judy lives in Michigan. She lives near my parents when they're up there for half the year. And my dad has this amazing garden where he is growing asparagus. And I don't think most people know this, but asparagus is pretty hard. Well, it's not hard to grow. It just takes a while to harvest. So you plant it 1 year, and then you have to wait like 2 or 3 years before you actually get to harvest any of it. But then once it starts growing, it just grows straight out of the ground like this, and it keeps growing and growing, and then you snip some off, you eat it for dinner, come back a couple days later, and it's grown again, snip some off, and you keep doing that all throughout the season, and you have fresh asparagus. It's so wonderful. So wonderful. I'm going to botch your name again. Is it Nisa? Nisa. Nissa. I can't get it. I'm so sorry. Nissa like Alyssa. You said, hi, Nissa. It's good to see you again. You love garlic. We love garlic too. We love it too. I'm so sorry that can't say your name. I will get it next time. There you go. Like Alyssa. Yes. All right. So then just run your knife through your garlic and slice it. Doesn't have to be in any particular shape or size. I like to slice it as thin as I can just so that I can get as many bits of garlic dispersed throughout my meal as possible so that I can have, a little bit of garlic in every bite. That's just kind of how I think about it. And then we'll go ahead and throw this garlic into the pan too. I'm going to turn this heat up just a little bit so we can get this asparagus cooking a little bit more. If your asparagus is already starting to sizzle, now is a great time to go ahead and season it. So we're going to add a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, help to bring out those natural flavors here. Salt and pepper. Well, there's no pepper in that. Let's try this one. Always have a pepper backup. It's unnecessary. I'm not even quite sure why we have 2 pepper grinders, but we do. Probably because when we moved here, I probably had everything that Colleen had, so our kitchen appliances doubled when we moved in. Ooh, I can smell the garlic already. That smells good. Go ahead and check your farro. Make sure that everything's going okay. You should have a nice, gentle simmer happening. You don't want a ferocious boil, because then you'll probably burn the bottom more than cook it through. So this is looking really good. A nice gentle simmer. And we'll let that hang out there while everything else cooks. All right, on to the kale. So normally I buy bunches of kale and I just strip the leaves off and chop everything up that way, but the grocery store that I went to didn't have any of that. So what I bought was the pre-chopped kale, which you've probably seen at the grocery store. I mean, it saves you a step. You don't have to wash the leaves and chop it up. It's already washed and chopped for you. So we're gonna use this stuff. I'm gonna let the asparagus cook down a little bit more though before we add the kale. Silas got upset for a bit when he found out we were going to watch tonight and not join. Face palm. I'm sorry. We'll figure it out. Tell him that we will do it soon. Also sorry that nobody can pronounce your name. Awesome. Hey John, thanks for joining. We are cooking up, for those of you who are just tuning in, we're cooking up a cheesy farro dish with asparagus and kale and topping it with an over easy egg. So right now we have our farro going. We're letting our asparagus saute a little bit. I'm actually going to head over there a second and stir this up. I want to be careful not to burn the asparagus. So stir it frequently. If you did buy bunches of kale, not pre-chopped kale, go ahead and use this time to wash the leaves off a little bit and give it a rough chop. You can leave the stems on since we're cooking the kale tonight. We're going to cook those stems down so they'll be nice and tender. Usually, if we use raw kale on the show, we'll strip the leaves off the stem, but we don't need to do that tonight. And so, fun fact about kale and asparagus in particular, those green vegetables are very rich in folate, and folate is a B vitamin that helps to reduce your risk for heart disease. So that vitamin in particular helps to reduce the level of homocysteine in the body, and homocysteine is basically a marker of cardiovascular disease. So for example, when somebody has a heart attack, when we look at that person's blood after the fact, they typically have very high levels of homocysteine. And research shows that people who have more folate in their diets have lower levels of homocysteine. And so we know that you can greatly reduce your risk for experiencing heart attacks and strokes and blocked arteries if you eat more folate. So more greens, more dark leafy greens in particular, but asparagus is also a very good source of folate. So this meal tonight is very rich in folate, and it's super delicious. It's super delicious. He said, okay, okay. Awesome. The other thing that we're going to do once we get the kale and the asparagus cooked is do our eggs. So we're just going to lightly cook or pan fry an egg and place it on top of everything. So let's go ahead and add our kale now, and we'll get the kale cooking in there. This is a big old bag. I think I'm going to add about half of it. It will cook down quite a bit. So don't be afraid if your pan is overflowing with kale. You're like, there's no way I'm going to eat all that kale. Oh, but you can. There's Kiki to the rescue again. You want some kale? Can you sit? Speak. Good girl. Fist bump. Fist bump. Oh, good girl. Oh yeah. Once you add your kale, go ahead and just sprinkle in a little bit more salt. Again, trying to flavor your vegetables every step of the way. Not a ton of salt, just a little pinch. The other great thing that I love about this meal, and I'm going to sound like a total dietitian right now, is how much fiber is in it. So we've got a lot of fiber in this meal from our vegetables, of course, but also the farro. Whole grains in particular are very good sources of fiber. And crazy fact, did you know that only 5 98% of Americans meet the daily recommendation for fiber. So as a country, 95% of us are not eating enough fiber. And fiber it does so many wonderful things in the body. It helps lower your cholesterol, again, helping to reduce your risk for heart disease. It helps with digestion, improves digestion, helps you go to the bathroom every day, helps to reduce inflammation in the body. And it also helps you to feel more satisfied at meals. So after you've eaten dinner, you feel more satisfied and you're less likely to go, snack later during the night, or you're less likely to crave sweet things after dinner if you're getting enough fiber in your meal and you're feeling satisfied after eating. It does a lot of things. I feel like fiber is a very underappreciated nutrient. This is looking delicious. Okay, so at this point, we're going to go ahead and squeeze half of our lemon into the veggies. And I'm just giving this a quick stir here. So add a little bit of lemon juice to the vegetables. Helps to prevent them from getting too dark green or that dark brown color that can happen if you overcook your veggies. Diane's home. That was fast. I hope you weren't speeding. You are now a driveway moment. I love it. What a great dog. And you reward her with freaking kale. She loves kale. She loves carrots. She really just eats anything that I give her. And I give her vegetables, so she'll take it. She probably loved bacon a little bit more often, but Okay, so cut your lemon in half. We're going to go ahead and squeeze that into our veggies real quick. And I like to use my palm to catch any seeds that are falling out, especially if you're not using like one of those handheld juicers. But this lemon's going to add a little bit of flavor. And like I said, the acid in here is going to, or the vitamin C in here is going to help prevent the greens from getting too brown. So we still get that nice, vibrant, attractive green color. We eat with our eyes first, right? All right. And we'll pour the other lemon juice into the pot here with the farro. So do you guys like farro? Have you cooked with it before? Would you cook with it before? And like I said, whole grains can be swapped out left and right. So use quinoa if you want to use quinoa or brown rice and make this dish. What's most important is that you're getting those green vegetables in. So however you want to get those green vegetables in is the grain that you're going to choose. Nissa's saying she's never had it. Yeah, you can buy it at Hy-Vee. I think you can buy it at Kroger as well. Like I said, it's just it kind of falls under one of those ancient grain categories. So, it does have gluten. It's not a gluten-free grain for those of you who are trying to follow a gluten-free diet. You're not going to want to use farro. You're going to want to use a brown rice or a quinoa instead. But because it contains gluten doesn't mean that it's not healthy for you, because it absolutely is. And we're not going to be eating, a huge amount of it. So it's all about balance and portion control when it comes to eating well. And so by mixing and matching the foods in here, right, we've got a little bit of carbohydrate, we've got a lot of vegetables, and then we've got some protein and some healthy fat. That combination is really what helps us to feel full and satisfied and helps to really nourish our bodies the best. Yes, it's a grain, Diane. We eat all the gluten. I'm right there with you, sister. I feel so bad for people that have to follow gluten-free diets, because no donuts, no freshly baked bread, and there are gluten-free alternatives, but they're just not the same. They're not the same. Okay, I'm going to go back over and check. Let's go ahead and check on our grains. If anybody is cooking with me tonight, let me know how things are going. And let's see how everything's looking. This looks pretty good. Still needs a little bit more time though, I can tell. I'll give it a taste just to make sure. Yeah, just a few more minutes. So there's two types of farro that you can buy. You might see this one. It's called pearled farro. You've also probably seen pearled barley. And what that means is the grain has been somewhat polished, and some of the bran, or not the bran, the outer hull of the grain has been removed, and it makes it cook faster. So you do technically remove some of the nutrition when you do that, but you still have the bran on the inside that is going to provide some nutrition. So it's, you know, it's kind of an in-between. It's still nutritious, but it also cooks faster, and that makes your life easier, no doubt. So it's probably worth it. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and turn these veggies off because these are done. This looks delicious. And what I'm going to do is just transfer my veggies into a bowl so I can use this pan to cook my egg. And if you want to just get a new pan, go ahead, but I'm all about reducing the amount of dishes I dirty in the kitchen. And if you have some brown bits at the bottom of your pan too from the veggies, I would quickly rinse that out. Like I had a little bit of burning here. I had a piece of garlic on here that got a little burnt. So I'm gonna just rinse this out real quick because I don't want any burnt bits when I cook my eggs. Let's hear it for over easy eggs. Does everybody like over easy eggs? I hope so. That's my favorite way to eat an egg. We're lucky enough to have a neighbor who has chickens, so we get all of our eggs from her. So we know that our eggs are pasture raised, so they've got access to grass during the season, and so we know that pasture raised eggs do have higher levels of omega-3 fatty acids compared to conventionally raised eggs, which are, or chickens, which just feed on grains. So if you have the means, if you have the access to it to purchase pasture raised eggs, do that. It is a healthier choice. It's also better for the environment. But, you know, not a big deal if you don't have access to it or you can't afford it right now. Okay, I'm going to add just a touch more oil in here and we'll crack an egg in. Nissa is saying, I would fight through the stomach issues for a mean tortellini and some bread. I probably would too. Knowing full well that I'm about to be doubled over in pain the next day or that night. Silas enthusiastically shouted, yes! I'm assuming that was to the donut, maybe? The gluten-free products. Diane, store-bought eggs don't compare. It's so true. Once you have a fresh, a legitimate farm fresh egg, it's just not the same. It's not the same. The yolk is deeper in color, as you'll see here. Well, I don't have one to compare it to, so it'll probably be difficult to see. But these are some of the eggs. They're all like different colors, which basically means that it's a different breed of chicken. It doesn't really mean that it's a healthier egg one way or another, but the breed of the chicken determines the color of the egg. But we love getting the pretty little green eggs, blue eggs in there. We always get them every now and then. And then sometimes we get a double yolk, which is always fun. Oh, pan-fried eggs. Gotcha. Get a healthy little appetite there, Silas. All right. So let's crack this egg in. You know what? I'm going to do 2 since I'm here. Woo! Little bit of salt and pepper. Let those cook for a minute, flip them over. And this farro is just about done. Like I said, you can drain the excess water off. So I think what I'm going to do now is just get my bowl ready to go. And I can use a spoon to just drain out the excess liquid. Maybe, maybe not. Okay, we'll do it like this. All right, so I've got about 3/4 cup of the farro in here, and I'm gonna bring it over here, and I'm gonna squeeze a little bit of lemon on it. Normally I would do all of this in the one big pot, but I do want to cook the farro just a touch more. Okay, and then we're going to get our cheese on here. And I like to do it when the farro is hot so it gets all nice and melty and delicious. You could use shredded cheese on this if you wanted to. I'm just using a vegetable peeler to get these nice little cheese shavings. And that will quickly melt in. It'll be delicious. We'll put our veggies right on top. Always going heavy on the veggies here at the house. They're so good. When you cook them in a way that tastes good, you literally, like you want to eat them. I feel like vegetables get such a bad name, like, ugh, I have to eat my vegetables now. But man, if you can cook them well, you will start to crave vegetables. Wonderful. Okay, I'm gonna flip that egg real quick and we'll put it right on top. And after I flip it, I turn my pan off and just let it cook for a few seconds. Because the residual heat in the pan is just going to continue cooking that egg. Look how crispy and delicious they look. I'm so excited. That's what happens when you use a little bit of oil in your pan. Done. Look at that. It's so beautiful. Oh, Riley. Jeez. Dog underfoot. There we have it. Our delicious cheesy farro with asparagus and kale and over easy egg. Again, when I'm done cooking the farro, I'll just put the farro, I'll drain it, I'll put it back in that pot, then add your cheese and lemon in, give it a stir so the cheese is all mixed throughout, and then you can mix your vegetables in there as well. I'll post a picture of that on the page so you can see what I'm talking about, but for the sake of getting a final finished product on the show and showing you what it looks like, I just did a little shortcut. So let me know if you decide to make this. Hey Raphael, thanks for joining. Good to see you. Diane, yeah, you use both hands. Yes, both hands. Both hands always. Couldn't crack an empty egg one-handed if my life depended on it. Me either. I try, and I try it on the show, and I always mess it up, so I just always resort to two hands. All right. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to wrap it up here. I hope to see you next week, next Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Central Time, cooking with me. Come cook with me. It'll be fun. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
PeoriaLife.com